Alright, I'm going to talk about marijuana today, and it's not like a secret that California has been in a huge budget crisis the past couple of years and been losing teachers, budget cuts and tuition increasing. I believe and claim that legalizing marijuana would greatly benefit the budget crisis in California. Legalizing would be a great source of additional tax revenue. Annually, marijuana brings in $14 billion, but none of that is taxed. So putting a 10% tax would bring in $1.4 billion that can be back into education and building new schools and just back to the public. Another one would be legalizing would result in less money being spent on marijuana court cases and law enforcement cracking down on drug trafficking. The U.S. is by far the most criminal country in the world. We create 5% of the population in the world, and 25% of that 5% are prisoners. We spend $68 billion per year on correction institutions, and 1/3 of the prisoners in the correctional institutions are nonviolent crimes relating to marijuana. So they're not, killing people or murdering anyone. They're just related to marijuana. Marijuana is the largest cash crop in California, right above milk products. If we were to legalize marijuana, it would create tons of new jobs in the agriculture aspect, where farmers can grow it legally, have people package it, market it, and advertise it. And relating to freeing up law enforcement agencies to deal with more serious crimes, California alone spends $150 billion on policing and court cases annually per year. And 40% of the cases that the court deals with are related to marijuana. And if we weren't to spend so much money on that, money could be spent on better schools and public services. Drug trafficking would come to a halt because legalizing it here would mean less business for drug traffickers coming from other countries, such as like the cartels, because it would all be legalized here, and there would be no reason for them to sell it here. Just overall, legalizing it would create tons of new jobs, more money back into California and our huge budget crisis that we have already. We wouldn't have to lay off as many teachers, and tuition for college students wouldn't have to raise at a fast pace. So.
All right, Jesse, your claim is pretty clearly stated. The secondary points are not laid out in a preview, and in the body of the speech, ideas come up, but they're never identified as distinct ideas, and you kind of bounce back and forth between some of those ideas, so they repeat themselves and they're not developing. So I think you need to be a little bit more consistent about the structure of the speech and putting your information into those supporting points. There were several points where there was just complete assertion on a couple of things. For instance, the drug trafficking issue disappearing. I didn't get any information supporting that particular claim. The only information that I had supporting the claim on tax revenues was that if we were able to tax this at 10%, then we would be able to get, I think you said like $1.4 billion. Is there any model that suggests that we would be able to successfully tax that at that level? It would, of course, require the commercial process that you're talking about and all those hypothetical jobs, which, again, are all asserted. Why would the drug traffickers, for instance, not want to keep selling if they could undercut the so-called legal jobs? I mean, if you're selling it in 7-Elevens and it's being advertised for, $5 for 5 hits or something like that, why wouldn't the guy out on the street be selling it for $5 for 25 hits or whatever? I think you need to develop this argument a little bit more. You've got a lot of hypotheticals here, and there's always another hypothetical that's going to answer that point. Now, I think that you've got some statistical information in here that I am uncertain of, and I'm not saying that you're a liar. That's not the case at all. I'm just saying it's dramatically different than information that I've heard on numerous other occasions, and there's one thing that is definitely problematic. For instance, you said California spends $150 billion a year on the criminal justice system and policing these kinds of things. Well, since the state budget is $100 billion, that would mean that we would be having to go into deficit $50 billion to be able to do that, and we wouldn't be paying for anything else. So that number just doesn't sound right. If there's a reason why that number is as high as it is, you need to be able to explain why it is that case. And that's why you need to cite the sources for your information so we could track that down, or we could understand maybe it's talking about some other set of numbers, and you were just presenting it this way, and it sounded like that's what you were talking about. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that you're liar, liar, pants on fire or anything like that. I'm just saying that doesn't make any sense, intuitively. There's also a statistic that you present that said 40% of the cases in the prison system are related to nonviolent marijuana. Actually, it was 1/3 related to nonviolent marijuana laws, and then later on, as 40% were related of the court cases were related to marijuana laws. And both of those numbers are a heck of a lot higher than numbers I've heard before. I'm not saying that they're not true. I'm just saying you should be giving us a source citation on that so that we can check that and evaluate the credibility of the information that's being presented there. All right, thank you.